Hello, fictional. Welcome to the Fiction Series X. Today we are gonna see, what if Issei got harem with Gabriel, Irina and Serafall. Part 2. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. I've been thinking a lot about this lately, but what's gotten into Gabriel and Irina lately? They weren't like that when I had first met them before. Gabriel was a fierce girl, especially when we were into battle, and Irina, well, she hasn't shown much change, but she did change quite a bit. Now back to Gabriel. I didn't know she had a cute side. It's quite strange actually. There's times where she's taut on the outside, but really compassionate on the inside, but doesn't really show it. I know there was a term for those kind of people, and it's on the tip of my tongue. Aha. It's tsundere. Gabriel's a tsundere. That makes perfect sense. Tough on the outside, compassionate on the inside. Mental note to self, tease her about this on our date tomorrow. Wait. This isn't a date, is it? Well, Irina's there but still. Is it? This is one of those moments where I really feel like I'm dense. As I was thinking about this, I glanced at the big clock I'm currently standing behind. 12:15. It probably wasn't a good idea getting here at 11:30, not knowing that they would be late, but hey, girls gotta do what they gotta do, right? Get ready and stuff. Laughing awkwardly in my head, I heard clacks coming up from behind me. It sounds like heels. Before I could respond, my eyes suddenly went dark as a pair of hands covered my eyes. Esu. Knowing it was Gabriel, I decided to tease her a bit. Irina. I muttered, trying so hard not to snicker. She playfully slapped my right arm as she let go of her hands that were covering my eyes. Baka. She stated. Once she let go of my eyes, I turned around to take a look at her. Wow. My heart was beating 10 times faster than it was before. I'm looking at an angel right now. Metaphorically speaking. It was Gabriel. She was wearing a white frilled dress that went about to her knees. Not too short and not too long. She was wearing a golden necklace and a matching golden bracelet. Her golden locks were tied into a small ponytail with a bow, but not too much, as the base of her hair was still there and her bangs were still on check. She was wearing brown sandals that looked like she picked them up from a Asian store. In simple words, she looked absolutely stunning. I guess I was staring too long as she twirled a little bit and gave off a slight blush. Do I look weird? She asked shyly. Recovering from my trance, I managed to grab a hold of my words and replied in one simple word. Be beautiful. I stuttered. Her eyes were shocked for a bit, but they calmed down right away as she gave of a slight blush. Really? She managed to get a grasp of my left arm and interlocked it with hers, now fully blushing. Yeah. I stuttered. Stupid Issei. Why can't you say something more thoughtful? Before I could mentally beat up myself, another voice came up from behind us. Ice-kun. The voice said faintly. I turned around and looked, and once again, I found my heart beating 10 times faster. It was Irina. She was wearing almost the same thing as Gabriel, but it's not a dress. It's a shirt and a skirt, and it's not frilled nor white. She was wearing a crimson red shirt and a black skirt with white shoes. She had her usual twin ponytails, but something else about just made her look gorgeous. What do you think? She asked, doing the same thing as Gabriel, twirling around, flashing her whole outfit to me. I gave off a slight blush. Wow. I had said, once again, feeling so useless with these comments I keep giving off. I shook my head, getting rid of Irina's trace. Anyways. I started, where do you guys want to go? I asked while I started up a walking pace. Anywhere is fine, as long as you're with me. Gabriel pointed out. Yeah. Lead us anywhere, Ice-kun. Irina added. Not knowing where to go, I decided to walk over to a cafe. It was past 12 and I didn't have much to eat for breakfast. As I was walking, I noticed my eyesight started getting a little blurry. And I felt a somewhat nostalgic feeling. My steps were starting to waver off, but I tried as hard as I could to walk straight, not wanting Irina and Gabriel to worry. What is this feeling? I feel dizzy, yet warm on the inside. I started to look around and noticed something that made my heart almost drop. She had black, streaking hair, probably past her shoulders. They were put in double ponytails, just like the day I had met her. But the thing that caught me more was her slim figure and her magenta-colored eyes. She was walking down the street when she had managed to take a glance at me. It was for a mere second, but she gave off a smile. A smile that I've been wanting to see for so long. At first, I couldn't believe my eyes. I was gasping heavily, and this had caused Irina and Gabriel to stop in their tracks. Ice-kun. Are you okay? Gabriel asked, taking a notice of my deep gasping. Yeah. I managed to catch my breath and let out a heavy blow. I don't know what just happened. Are you sure you still want to go? Irina asked with concern in her eyes. You don't look very well. No worries, I'll be fine. I said as I gave her a reassuring smile. Not wanting to argue, the two just nodded as we picked back up on our walking pace. In a matter of minutes, we were finally there. I pulled out the chair for both Irina and Gabriel and sat on the opposite side of the table. Every guy that was in the cafe gave me a look of envy, and half of those guys were on dates. Sheesh. Hi, welcome to Bistros, what could I get you? The waitress asked. I'll take a cup of tea. Gabriel stated. Same with me. Irina added. Could I have a breakfast sandwich? I asked. Sure. I'll get your orders right away. When the waitress left, Irina and Gabriel started talking about school and other girl-related things. As much as I was paying attention to their conversation, I started to zone off. I just couldn't help but to think what had just happened to me before we came here. Was that really her? Deep in my thoughts, I started to remember the things I've done before. Flashback. I was walking down the streets, on the paths near the underworld. It's been almost 4 months since the Great War has started. The current Lucifer, Rizavum, is planning something that could wipe out our existence, but I won't let that happen. Realizing more and more of my anger for devils, I stumbled upon a bench that was underneath a tree. It appears there seems to be a girl there. Sensing what she truly is, I called out my sword and was in a cautious stance. I started to move forward, slower and slower, not wanting to cause her any realizations. As I started to get closer and closer, I became more and more cautious. Once I finally reached her, I took a grasp on my hilt, holding my sword in front of me, suggesting that if she had any thugs to attack, it wouldn't work. The girl had her head down, and she was just staring at the ground. She then asked me a really vague question, as if she knew I was here before I was in front of her. Say, is this war necessary? She had asked. I was dumbfounded by this devil girl. I didn't know whether to respond or kill her. The war took a toll in my brain, and killing devils for the past few months are nothing to me. It's like a second instinct. I sensed what she was feeling, and it was the complete opposite of what the other devils have felt. She was depressed and intoxicated by what's been going on around her. I made my sword disappear, hoping that this girl wouldn't try and do anything, and I sat down beside her. I let out a loud sigh before I could answer. Honestly, I don't. There seems to be no point to this. Neither sides will stop unless they are satisfied with the results. I said as I dropped my head to the floor. She might have been looking down on the floor, but her eyes grew, as if hope had struck her. I know what you are, she started, aren't you going to try to kill me? She ended with a little terror in her voice. I could, but. I trailed off. But. She lifted up her head, revealing how she looks like. I lifted my head as well, and when I did, a new feeling came over my body. A feeling of happiness, as if I looked at our current conditions in a new light. She looked absolutely gorgeous. But, I could feel your heart. While others seek for vengeance, you seek for answers. She gasped. I know how you feel, and truth be told, I want what you want as well. I finished off, looking into her magenta eyes. You do? She asked as if it was too good to be true. Yes I do. I smiled. She started getting tears in her eyes, and little by little, tears fell on her cheeks. I am glad I found someone who feels the same. She managed to say. I want this war to stop. I want to do so many other things in life. I want to explore the world and seek out on adventure. But when I'm trapped here, I feel like a prisoner. Every day since this war has started, we have been killing countless number of people, from innocent to killing children. I want it to stop. There's so many things we could do. This is my dream. I got up to her and gave her an embrace. She started crying more and more by the minute. I may have just met her, but I'm quite glad she let out what she had in her mind. She rested her head on my shoulders and let out a deep sigh after her tears went away. I am glad. I'm used. I'm glad someone feels the same way as I do. I couldn't help but to smile at her remark. Say, would you help me achieve my dream? And make it into a reality? Our reality? I blushed slightly at her remark. I smiled and nodded, and with utmost glee, she hugged me really tight. From that day on, me and her started to stop the war. I had told Michael that this war needs to be stopped, as we are endangering more and more people every time we pass by a city. He simply replied that we need to end the feud against devils and angels once and for all. I could have told him to stop, but that would have seemed like a one-sided argument. I want to help my people, but I want to help her achieve her dream. After all these times, I never asked her for her name, and vice versa. Either way, there's something about her. Something that makes me want to see her more and more. After the talk with Michael, I went to the spot where we normally go to. Once I was there, I felt like something was off. Normally it was her that comes here first and waiting for me, but I'm here before her. Suddenly, as if it was irony, she came out of nowhere and stood a feet away from me. I was glad to see her, but when I took a second look on her face, she was terrified. Her emotions weren't how they normally were. I was about to ask what's wrong when suddenly she opened her lips and out came the words. "I'm sorry." I could hear the depression in her voice, as if it was forced. At first, I didn't understand what she meant. "I'm sorry." Sorry for what? Out of nowhere, 5 devils approached from the bush and surrounded me. "We got him," one of the devils said. But that said, in a matter of seconds, their leader came out. "Brisavum Lucifer." I growled. "It's been a while, Kami-sama. What did you do to her?" I snarled at him, thinking if he did the slightest thing to her, I would go off. Oh, you know, she was depressed at one point, but something changed. When she came back to headquarters, something about her seemed different, so I had one of my spies to follow her. And here we are. He smirked. "I swear, if you do anything to her I will." "Well what?" He cut off. "You're too forgiving. That's your problem. You wouldn't do a single little thing, even if it was for your life. You value your people more, and you think of us devils without a second thought. That's your problem." I shouted, my anger getting the best of me. "If you wouldn't have wanted to destroy everything, we wouldn't have had this war in the first place. Look over there at her. She has hopes and dreams." Hopes and dreams are for idiots. Our realm has nothing to do with the real worlds. We aren't humans with hopes and dreams. We are better beings," he stated. He then looks at her and started playing with her hair. "Dreams are for fools." He smirked. That was it. Something about that set something off inside me. I called out to my sword, and once I took a grasp of it, everything that happened after was a blur. I moved in Godspeed, going onto the person in my left, slashing his body in half, rebounding off of his full body, and nose dived towards the next one, stabbing him right in the heart. I took my sword out and swung it to the guy on his left, and with 2 remaining, I summoned light spears and pierced their bodies. I was now standing in the middle of everything. 5 dead devils, the current Mayu, and her, still not knowing her name. Brisavum's eyes were open to the recent action that had just partook. He shook it off and went with his usual smirk. "Oh? So you can kill. Guess I might have been wrong about you. But let's see how you react when someone close to you," he said as he pulled out his sword, "a long Inus that could kill myself, and put it close to her neck, gets threatened by a sword that could kill you." For once in my life, I felt hopeless, but I didn't want to give up. I readied my sword, but before I could react, she spoke up. "Issei, don't do it, I'm not worth it." Just hearing that made me let go of the grip on my sword and look at her with concern. "No. I'm not going to give you up like this. I might not know your name, but I promised you a world where everything is peaceful. Just take my hand and come with me," I said, reaching out towards my hand. She simply nodded and started to cry, but there was a small smile that was placed on her face. "No, meeting you was enough. I'm glad that someone had the same dream I did. When this war is over, look for me. My name is..." Sir. Ice-kun." I opened my eyes and I was suddenly on the floor. "What just happened?" "What happened?" I asked, getting up off the ground. "You passed out," Gabriel said with concern. "Yeah, don't scare us like that," Irina added. "Are you sure you're feeling okay, Ice-kun? We could do this again another time." I just don't want to worry about you fainting again," Gabriel shuddered. Still feeling fatigued, I managed to say that I was alright, leaving out the parts from what I just saw. Why did I faint anyways? Oh, recall, I forgot about that. Recall is something that I have been born with. It makes me remember the things I've done in the past. But, that scene just now. I haven't thought about that in years. Mainly the reason because I wanted to fulfill her dream, to make this world a peaceful place to live in, and with the peace treaty coming in, I think we're just about there. I shook my head and excused myself from the table. I was walking outside, trying to clear my head out of everything that I just recalled. I was passing down the street when I swore that I saw her again. She passed by me and her beautiful scent flew around my nostrils, reminiscing the times I've spent with her. I thought it was too good to be true, but when I turned around, she was gone. I think I'm going crazy about all the illusions I'm seeing. I rubbed my eyes and went back to the cafe. "Are you feeling better, Ice-kun?" Irina asked worriedly. "Yeah, I'm slightly doing better." "Forgive me," I said while bowing, "if you guys don't mind, do you still want to continue?" I asked while smiling. They were both happy with my question when they both took their respective sides. To the left and right of my arms. Once we walked out, they started to drag me around, which was weird because I was suggesting that I should lead, but I just laughed it off and went along with it. In a matter of minutes, we went from store to store as Irina and Gabriel tried out different outfits. We were now sitting at a nearby bench in a park, eating our crepes. That was quite fun, Ice-kun, Irina said smiling while eating her blueberry crepe. Yeah it was, I chuckled, I'm glad you guys had fun. Thanks for today Ice, Gabriel added. Looking at my watch, it was currently 6:35. Yes we had too much fun, I said as the three of us watched the sun go down. Yeah maybe just a bit. Irina said, well, I gotta go back home, I still haven't finished unpacking, so. She finished her crepe and went for a kiss on my cheek. Gabriel was shocked by her sudden action. Irina stood up and winked at me, don't have too much fun Ice-kun. She stated as she started to walk away. Too much fun? What do you mean? I look over to Gabriel and she was mad. She was pouting, but I couldn't take it seriously. She was too cute. She then slapped my arm, causing me to drop my crepe. Hey. You owe me for that one. I stated. Nope, I don't, it's your fault. What do you mean my fault? You kissed Irina. What? No, that was her obviously, couldn't you tell? Nope, all you. We sounded like an old married couple, bickering about the smallest thing, when she suddenly scooted up right next to me and rested a shoulder on my head as the horizons turned from a sunburst orange to a ashy black. See, what I tell you. Complete tsundere. Remembering the mental note I took upon myself this morning, I decided to tease her about it. You're so tsundere Gabriel, I snickered. I'm not. She defensively said as she took her head off my shoulders and poked her fingers together while pouting. You are too, I can't even read you sometimes, there's times where you're compassionate, but then when you're around me, you get all defensive. I explained. Well. She was completely silenced. Well, don't worry about it, it doesn't matter. I'll accept you for who you are. That's how you are anyways, though it wasn't like this before now was it? She started to blush. She knew that I was correct. I scooted up right next to her and let her rest her head on my shoulder again. Only difference this time was that my hand had a mind of its own and started moving towards Gabriel's. Once I made contact with her hand, she jumped, so I retracted it back, but before I could, she got a grasp of it and interlocked it with hers. Why can't it be like this all the time? She quietly asked with a blush on her face. I'd like that as well, but as angels, we have a lot to worry about. We aren't exactly humans. We, as angels, were created to be guardians of heaven, that's something that can't be accomplished easily, with the threats we are facing. What threats? Oops, I didn't mean that to slip out. I forgot she doesn't know about that magical being I sealed, being released and may destroy the world. Nothing. I replied. It doesn't matter, I just want to stay like this for a while. I'm really happy right now. She stated. I blushed and looked at her. When I see her, everything fades away, as if I'd created a world only between me and her. She turned around and was surprised that I was staring at her. Reading the mood, I started to lean in and tried to kiss her. She agreed with the mood and went for it as well, as both of our lips were now within each other's. Gabriel's lips were quite soft and it tasted like strawberries. Probably the crepe she had just ate. Once we were lacking oxygen, we started to pull away. She buried her face in my chest and I embraced her. We stayed like this for quite a while, without saying a word, when she decided to speak up and say something that made me think I was deaf, because I definitely didn't hear that right. Ice, stay with me. Forever. She whispered in my chest. My eyes went wide after her sudden confession. I couldn't help but to smile and nod. With that, our date was finished. Next morning. Walking to school with a beauty by your side is never an easy thing to do. Especially if it's somebody in the same grade as you and she's vastly known throughout the whole school. There were papers getting thrown at me at each and every class and every subject. Normal there would be something written inside it like. Womanizer Haidu Issei. Odo hell Issei. Look at me please. The last one were usually thrown by girls. But I managed to pull it off and somehow get through the day. Ice. I looked around me and there was a beautiful smiling girl waiting for me, calling out my name. I've been waiting to see that smile of hers. I went towards Gabriel and we were now headed towards the orc clubhouse. Sona had messaged me last night saying that she wants me to stop by the clubhouse and she apparently told Riaz that I would be stopping by. I didn't know what for but I went anyways. Once we were close, I was greeted by Sona outside. Sona Kaichu. How are you? I asked. I'm doing fine Issei, she replied. So what did you need me here for? Well, I think that's a question for you to answer when we get upstairs. She opened the door for us and started going upstairs. Once we reached a big door, Sona Kaichu opened it and I couldn't believe my eyes. Ice. It was a voice that I knew in my mind I was never going to forget. But, her being here feels too surreal. That proved me quite wrong as I walk into the room and there she was. Double ponytails and magenta eyes, but this is new, how come she's wearing a magical girl costume? Has she picked up cosplay since the times we were separated? It has been quite a while since I've talked to her. Yes, I'll find out soon enough. Trying to recover from my shocked state, I managed to get a hold on myself and sputtered out something that seemed appropriate for this situation. Sarah? Wow, was that it? I swore I said something much more to that. It's good to see you again, she managed to say. I could tell that she was getting a little bit emotional in this tiny reunion me and her are having. I felt a slight tug on the back of my shirt. I turned around and it was Gabriel, whom is currently looking at the floor, trying to avoid eye contact with me. She also seemed a bit sad. Catching my attention, I spoke up and said, "Hey, what's wrong?" I said as I tried to pick up her head and make her eyes meet mine. "Nothing." She murmured. "You know, when you say nothing like that, it usually means something is bothering you, so might as well come out and say it," I stated. She sighed. "How do you know Serafall Leviathan? One of the current mass of the underworld today?" This question got me stuttering. As much as I want to say what happened between me and her, she might take it the wrong way, her being how she is. I know what you're thinking, but rest assured, it's not how it is. I only care about you, Gabriel. I smiled reassuringly. That seemed to have worked as a full blush covered her face. "Oh, so sweet, Ice-kun," Serafall squealed. I turned around embarrassed. As I was now blushing as well. "So Kuoh, what are you doing here, Sarah?" I asked. "Well, there have been skirmishes going outside the peace treaty. Although the treaty actually hasn't happened yet, it's come up to our attention that we have to stop this," she explained. I nod. "Yeah, I've heard some stuff about this from when we had our own skirmish at church. If I recall, one of the fallen angels had told me that they were only following orders and that their leader was someone that's closer to Governor Azazel's rank in terms of fallen angels. Yes, so Serafall has asked me to pass it on to you guys, mostly because he sees something in you," she said, pointing to Saji. "Me?" he exclaimed. "Yeah, she's right. There's something about him that seems unnatural. While he does host the sacred gear of Ritra, there is something else hidden, something greater." "Yes, only time will tell," she said. "Well anyways, I'll see you guys later." She made a pose with her fingers and teleported in her magic circle. "So Ice, how do you know Serafall?" Riaz asked. She's been quiet this whole time, but I glanced at her once and she seemed like she had something to say. "Long story short, she's just an old friend," I replied with a wink. "So anyways, we need to discuss quite a few things," Sona started. "First of all, we need to find out where the source of this fallen angel attack is going to happen. I might have so hunches, but I'm not quite sure. Secondly, the thing that worries me the most is the opponent we are facing. Sama had told us that he is somewhere in ranks near Governor Azazel, and with Azazel being quite powerful, there is definitely a possibility he's too high of a caliber for us," she explained. "Finally, we need to train you, Saji. You don't have much training done, and if you need to prepare for the worst, being able to fight is the least you could do." "I understand, Kaichu, but who will train me?" Saji asked. "If you don't mind," I picked up their conversation, "I'll train you." I smiled confidently. "What?" Riaz confusedly asked. "Ice, I don't think it's such a good idea because Saji has a slight disadvantage." "What do you mean, Ria-senpai?" Saji asked. Sona face palmed herself. "Saji, you do know Ice is an angel, right?" "What?" Saji exclaimed. "I'm an angel." I smiled. But you'll kill me." I heard light spears hurt. "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing, I won't kill you probably." I teased. Saji squealed. "Nuo." "Saji, just do it, it's good for your training." Sona explained. "Sai, if it is you asking Kaichu, I can't do anything but agree. I'll take your offer, Hayadu," he replied. That left Sona blushing. I grinned. "Alright, it's best if we start now, so let's go," I said as I picked up Saji with one arm and slung him over me. "Wait. Nuo. Kaichu, help," he screamed as me and him left the room. "I do hope he survives," Sona said wearily. "Oh? Have a crush, do we, Sona?" Riaz teased. "No." Sona blushed and waved her hands defensively. Intermission. "So, I'm guessing you haven't had a lot of training yet," I said triumphantly as Saji was laying on the floor, trying to catch his breath. "And no, Huff," Saji replied. I thought, Huff, you weren't trying to kill me." I said maybe, I chuckled. "Besides, I only threw light spears, it wasn't a big deal." "Are you out of your mind? You're an angel. That attack of yours almost killed me for funk's sake," he screamed. I laughed. Alright, sorry, how about you go in balance breaker and fight me with my sword?" "Balance breaker? Oh, you don't know what that is? And here you were explaining to me what sacred gears were when we first met." I only knew that Vritra was my sacred gear, nothing more, ahaha, he chuckled nervously. "Alright, well then, before we continue we might as well go over it," I said, sitting down on the floor. "Sacred gears were made as a gift from God. They possess great power, and some could even kill gods when used correctly and wisely. While some sacred gears contain mythical creatures such as dragons and such, there are some that don't. Ah, so sacred gears were given to humans. Does that mean everyone has one? He asked. I laughed. No, that would be quite frightening. There are only a specific few who does, and with that, they could either side with the ones who do good or the one that causes distraught. That's why the factions are forming a treaty so they could maybe stop the terrible things that happen in our world. He nodded in understanding. So with that said, sacred gears have special abilities as well. Yours especially is quite special since there are about 7 pieces to your sacred gear, though you only have one, which is absorption line. I continued. It does? What does it do? He said, staring into his black and purple gauntlet. It basically drains the enemy's power and transfer it to yourself. Whoa, that's cool. He replied in amazement, but what's Balance Breaker? Balance Breaker is a forbidden move that is sealed within the sacred gear. It triggers usually by emotions and willpower of the user. It's short, it's the ultimate state of a sacred gear. I explained. So what does it do? Well, in terms of anything without any complications, it's quite powerful and can do a lot of things. I'm used. I look over to Saji, who seems like he was getting more and more confident by the minute I started talking about sacred gears. He slaps himself in the face with both of his hands and nodded enthusiastically, yes. Alright Haidu, let's go again. I smiled, alright, but with your newfound enthusiasm, let's turn things up a notch. I smirked as I created holy lightning from my hands. Saji gulped. This went on for quite a while until. Whoa, how are you doing that? I said as I was imprisoned in a shadow cell. Saji's eyes were closed, but hearing what I just said, he started to slowly open them. I don't know. He replied. I summoned my holy sword and cut through the cell with ease. Not bad, quite surprised actually. That was a subspecies balance breaker ability from IsseixGabrielxHarem promotion. It's not too soon till you obtain balance breaker. I hummed, we made quite the progress today, best if we call it for now, I said as I threw a water bottle to Saji, who was worn out from using too much energy. He nods as a thanks as I held up my hand, getting him to his feet. Suddenly, 3 familiar girls approached us. How are you, Saji? Sona asked. I'm feeling fine, Kaichu, don't worry, he replied with a smile. How was it? Riaz asked. I hope Ice didn't try to kill you. If he did, excuse him. Gabriel stated. You know I wouldn't, Gabriel, I chuckled nervously, recalling quite a few times I almost accidentally pierced him with my holy spear or put him in a coma with my holy lightning. She just gave me her usual pout while look. So cute. I can't take you seriously, Gabriel. There were a few close calls, but I could tell they were accidents. He stated. Now the 3 of them were glaring at me. I just stood and chuckled nervously as I scratched my cheek. But that said, he's made quite the progress. At the end of the day, his magic raised quite a bit and he did do a subspecies ability that comes from his IsseixGabrielxHarem promotion, which was quite surprising. I explained. Can you control it, Saji? Sona asked. More or less, Saji chuckled nervously. Well, that's quite fine. You'll get it eventually, Sona reassured. As if irony had hit them hard, the room started to shake violently. What's going on? Riaz asked, trying to hold onto a peg of the table. Their attack is too soon. We're still at school. Sona yelled. Sona, quickly go to the intercom and tell everyone to get out of the school. We can't let them see the supernatural, it would be quite troublesome. I'll go and rally up both your peerages, but considering the violent shaking, they might already know what's up. I stated. Alright, let's meet outside the field, Riaz said. With a simple nod, I went towards the school area and tried to rally up the students who were in a panic state, as the violent shook wasn't quite an earthquake. It was something of a greater force. Everyone. Single file line. No more school for today. Don't push the person in front of you, leave in an ordered fashion. I yelled out an order. The intercom went up and I heard Sona's voice. Students, this is not a drill. Please go home, as school is cancelled for today. After her message, it was a reluctant find that Kiba, Kaneko, Saji, Tsubaki, and the rest of Sona's peerage were here. Kiba was the first to spot me. Ice-kun, what's happening? He asked worriedly. We're under attack. From what I can tell, a rogue fallen angel, that's below the rank of Azazel, is attacking the school, I explained. Alright guys, we have no time to waste, gather around. I motioned everyone to get into a group circle. Okay, Tsubaki, take Sona's peerage and make a defensive shield around the school except for Saji. Saji, you're coming with me along with Ria's peerage. We're headed to fight. As far as I can tell, this battle won't be that easy. I ordered. With nods coming from everyone, we all went to our respective role, and Ria's peerage, Saji and I were running down the corridor, looking for 2 more people. People of my own. I went towards my classroom and saw Gabriel who's shielding Irina with a defensive barrier. Ice-kun. What's going on? Irina cried out. No time to explain, both of you come with me. I said as I walked up towards them, ignoring the violent shaking quite well, and grabbed both of their arms just in the nick of time as the floor they were standing in got removed by the shaking. Wow. That's quite the timing. Gabriel said looking at the hole where the floor used to be. Since everyone's in check, we could finally attack. Although I am God from the Bible, the current state I'm in, I have no doubt that I might have some trouble, but not too much. I still have a few cards up my sleeve. As soon as we rendezvous with Sona and Riaz, we finally got to the field where the heart of the shaking originated from. How did we know that? One of Sona's hunches. She's quite good with those. It's really scary. Oh? You managed to find where I was. I applaud you young devils and oh. Are those angels I see? A mysterious voice emanates from the sky as someone that seems to be sitting in a seat that was made for an opera house appeared. He had a devilish looking face with pointy ears and locks that went to his neck. Now, should we get started? He smirked devilishly. He got into a battle stance and 10 black wings appeared from his back. No way. He's that high of a rank. He lifted up his hand and summoned quite a large light spear. He chucked it down the middle of our group, but some of us stepped back before it hit the ground, avoiding impact. I summoned my holy sword, but before that, everybody started bombarding the fallen angel with their own attacks. Gabriel was about to go in, but before she did, I grabbed her arm. Gabriel, wait. I said. She looked at me confusingly, wondering what I called her over here for. What's wrong? She asked. I pulled out something from my sleeve, and it was a card. The card started to emit yellow and green glows. I looked around and everyone was indulged in their own battle. I want you to be my queen. I said, as I fanned out the cards, you know what this is right. She started to get teary-eyed. Are you sure? She said shakily. Yes, I'm quite sure, I said smiling. These cards aren't your average cards. These are brave saints. Just like your average evil pieces, but angelic version. Each card has a special ability, role and suit. Though it is like evil pieces, they are still different. First difference is, the pieces I have are only 5, but 4 of each. The roles are King, me, Queen, Gabriel, Jack, Joker, and Ace. Now what I mean by 4 of each is the suit of the card. There is Diamond, Clover, Hearts and Spade. Each suit has its own ability, and it depends on what you specialize in. Since the ranking goes King, Queen, Joker, Jack, Ace, Gabriel is the second most powerful in the group. With 4 suits I'm giving her card transforms to an ultimate. An ultimate is when all 4 cards are combined or given to one individual, take form of one card. A card that possesses quite a lot of power. From agility to abilities to damage and increased stamina, an ultimate is a card to be reckoned with. It's quite confusing at first, but in terms of short words, it's powerful. But the 4 cards hovering over my hand, I crushed them with my palm and it turned into one golden card, Ultimate Queen. I pushed it off my palm as it went into Gabriel's body. She's a seraph so I'm pretty sure her body will handle the power well. Her body hunches over and floats in the air, yet everyone was indulged in the fight to notice what was going on. Well, we are at least a good 10 feet away. Her body fell down and I ran towards her falling body. I caught her in time and I looked at her and asked if she was alright. She rubbed her eyes and nodded. Putting her back on her feet, she summoned a light spear that was bigger than the one the fallen angel had made a while ago. She chucked it towards the field in hopes of hitting him, but he saw it just in time, only cutting off some feathers off his wings. Ah! What the funk was that? He roared. He started to create more and more light spears and started to throw them one by one towards us. I grabbed my sword and went towards the one that was headed in our direction. I caught up to it and swung my sword vertically, causing the light energy to separate, blowing the surrounding. Who the hell are you? He barked. Depends. I could be anyone. I smirked. Everyone was in a bad state and by my current declaration, and before I even knew it, I ran towards this fallen angel without a second thought. I feel my power exploding inside me, waiting to burst forth. He created an actual spear of light within his palm and tried to strike my chest. I grasped my sword and parried him, causing an opening. Before he could react, I slashed his body vertically, causing him to bleed. Funk. You'll pay for that. He roared. He was now charging towards me with his spear and tried to strike me. I was about to jump away when I felt a shock towards my left arm. I looked towards it and there was a small light spear that was pierced through it. My blood was now falling towards the floor, but I tried to ignore it, but it was useless. I couldn't lift up my hand and this caused me to fly 35 feet away because of his strike. I got back on my feet and went towards him Godspeed, not allowing him to react, as once I met with him, I slashed him diagonally. He put his hand on his body, as he was bleed really bad. I thought that I had won, but as I stood up, I soon fell back down. I grasped my stomach, but I felt a liquid near it. It was blood. I was bleeding as hard as he was. Damn this weakened state. I feel so weak. The fallen angel was still standing, as he had a devilish smirk on his face. Give it up, angel boy. You can't stand up against me. I have as much power as Shemhazai, he boasted. I was getting pissed with this little funker. I mustered up all my strength as I roared a cry, running towards him. I grasped my sword, and with my remaining power, I tried to summon a light spear, but what surprised me the most was what happened next. I summoned one of my other swords, a legendary one at that. The original Excalibur. It was a golden sleek sword, with a diamond blue center. It's quite sharp, and one of the materials in this sword is celestial bronze. It's an ingredient that helps slay mythical creatures more efficiently. I was surprised by my sword summon, but at the same time I only thought one thing. The portion of my power returned. The fallen angel saw this happening and his eyes widened. Hahaha. God from the Bible is dead. To think that you, an angel, can stop me. I ran faster and faster, ignoring my pain, ignoring the state I'm in, and without a second thought, I was up to his face. What happened next was a blur. I caught up to him and started to dual-wield my sword, slashing and hacking his body up to pieces. It was the most crucial thing I've done to a person. He then stood there, but after a few seconds, he fell to his knees, only mumbling the words, "How?" He then said something that caught everyone in surprise. "I'll be back. Never forget the name Gabriel," he coughed out, before his body fell. Everyone looked at me with both frightened looks and worried looks. I looked at my stomach and my hands and smiled, murmuring the words, "Is it over?" before I fell backwards and passed out. I woke up in a black empty space. I stood up and looked around. Where am I? Oh wait, I think I'm in my subconscious, for this wasn't the first time this happened to me. Oh? Guess I have a visitor. A voice emitted out of nowhere. I was caught off guard by the voice and I started to look around. I walked forward and saw a shady figure. "Who are you?" I asked. The figure stepped out of the shadow, and what came out was a bishoujo. She had purple hair with a bow tying to a ponytail. She had black eyes and a very slim figure, with a forgiving bust size. She had a wry smile and she was dressed in an armor-type dress. "Oh? Forgot about me, Kami. I'm the one whom you spent quite the time to seal away. I'm quite saddened that you had forgotten." She pouted. "Wait a second. Did she say seal?" Only one person came up to my mind with that keyword. "Trihixa. Trihixa," I exclaimed loudly in my subconscious. This beautiful-looking girl before him happens to be the legendary creature that was said to be sealed in the Bible, the same creature that was said when unsealed, would bring chaos and ruin to the earth. A million thoughts pop up in my mind, one of which, if I had to, would die right here, right now, stopping this unfathomable beast. But before I could do that though, Trihixa seemed to be laughing really hard. What's going on?" "Oh, did you actually think I was Trihixa?" the said creature girl asked, wiping a tear away. Well, in my mind, the first thing that pops up when the phrase sealed away comes up, I think about Trihixa Soyi, I explained, loosening up a little bit. She continued laughing. "Well, I'm not the Trihixa, but I am her counterpart more or less." "I'm sorry, but I'm so lost right now." "You're who exactly?" I asked, rubbing my temple in confusion. "I am Trihixa, yes, but I'm her other half. You see, when you sealed us away, I knew that I wouldn't be able to get out unless someone decrypts the magic that you've put in the seal itself, but knowing that could take a long time, I cloned myself. Currently there are two of me and each of us only have half of our power. Reuniting with her means that I gain my full powers back. The only thing is though, that this counterpart of myself is in split ends with my other half. Well, my other half wants to destroy the world, this half of me wants to live in it, see what it feels like to be a normal teenage girl, and go to a normal school, and maybe." She paused for a second and eyes Issei very thoroughly. "Get a boyfriend," she muttered, giving of a slight noticeable blush. "Wait, what? Are you telling me that the most powerful being, a being that is close to my caliber in terms of my prime powers, has a counterpart that wants to live out on Earth and have a boyfriend? As that kid that went to the dentist in that one viral video once said, is this real life?" I couldn't help but just be shocked at the sudden statement that has been brought upon my ears, but me being the kind of person I am, I might as well help her out. "Listen, Trihixa, I have a full understanding that what you say is nothing but meaningful, but I have to ask, how are you seeing me right now?" I asked as we were still having small talk in my subconscious. It's quite easy actually, but let me ask you, have you had any dreams about me before?" she asked, holding back the seductiveness at the end of her sentence. I had no idea what she was talking about, but in a quick moment of realization, I remembered the dreams I had about Trihixa almost eating me in my dream and that freaky voice that croaked out remember. Judging by your face I guess you have, she said giggling, well that was me trying to communicate to you in a sense, but I've only done it successfully this time. Hope that clears up any confusion. So you were the one saying remember? I asked. Oh yeah, I was trying to freak you out. Sorry she said as she stuck out her tongue, anyways, I should send you back it's almost been a week since you passed out and been sent here. Yeah it has been a few who wait. Did you say week I exclaimed. Seems so, time moves fast around your subconscious, she explained. Oh god, Gabriel is going to kill me. I said as I started preparing for the worst. The counterpart of Trihixa winked at me and with a wave of her hand, I was sent back to reality. I opened my eyes and the first thing I noticed was when I tried to rub the sleep out of my eyes, my right arm was immobile. Looking more closely, I'd managed to carve out a figure, sleeping next to me, grasping her hand in mine. She truly was beautiful. The second thing I noticed was that this wasn't the place I was last at, as I'm currently in my room. All of this must have a connection with the figure whom is currently sleeping peacefully on the side of my bed, for what seems to be her being patient with my selfishness and waiting for me to wake up. She is truly an amazing girl. I managed to wriggle out my hand from her grasp, and as if it was magic or the world's most perfect timing, when I got my hand free, she suddenly woke up. She let out a cute yawn and rubbed her eyes. Something must have caught her attention because the rubbing of her eyes were relentless, as if she saw a ghost or something. Finally realizing that this was not a dream, tears started to form around her ocean deep blue eyes, and the sight of that made my heart ache. I've been so selfish lately haven't I? Am I dreaming or are you actually awake? She managed to say without sniffling too much. Gabriel I'm so sorry. I was selfish and didn't think the situation through and I just went in recklessly and I have no excuse other than I'm sorry. I explained as I bowed my head in shame, preparing for the worst. Instead, what I got was something I didn't expect would happen. Jerk, she replied while smiling and crying. She suddenly got up and embraced me as she covered her head in my chest. I love you. Don't leave me again please she said faintly. Did I hear that right? I had to confirm. Did you say something Gabriel? I love you. I love you I love you I love you I love you. She exclaimed over and over again until the following phrase sank in my heart. When we first were together, I was kind of hesitant in saying that, mainly because I didn't feel like I liked you enough, but remembering our first date and you passing out for almost a week, I didn't realize I needed you in my life this much. These past few days, I've been aching for you to wake up and with my sudden realization of my feelings, I wanted to tell them to you so badly. But thoughts ran over my head and I thought what if you didn't wake up? What if something had happened to you and lost your memories about me? About us? About everyone? The thought of losing you. I cried so much, but now that you're back, please, accept these feelings I hold for you because I truly mean it when I say, I love you, hi do say. She announced as she grasped the back of my shirt harder, crying rivers. The lump in my throat has appeared. The sudden confession of Gabriel was quite a surprise, but I'm glad she feels the same. I brought up my hand and started to comfort her from behind. I'm glad you said that. I too, have been wanting to say that to you, but the thought of you not accepting how I feel might have held me back a little, but hearing you say, that puts me in a state of relief, I said while sighing in comfort, I love you Gabriel. She brought her head out from my chest and started to lovingly gaze into my eyes. Her ocean deep blue eyes one look and you might as well be drowning. I found the force of nature take its course as we were both an inch away from each other's faces, breathing each other's air. In a matter of seconds, we closed the gap between us and a feeling of passion and fulfillment had found its way towards us. We were there for God knows how long, but I bit back a curse as the lack of air prevented us from going forward, but at that exact moment, I didn't give a damn. The woman I love loves me back and that's all I needed to hear. Letting out a yawn, I readjusted myself and snuggled with Gabriel. She brought her face towards my chest again and in a matter of seconds, she was asleep. I couldn't help to notice that she was wearing a smile that was hidden in my chest and gazing upon that, I couldn't help but to smile at her. I played with her locks until the drowsiness in my eyes finally caught up and like Gabriel, in a matter of seconds, I too fell asleep thinking what the next day would bring us. Somewhere in Akihabara, Japan. Thank you. Come again. Okay, both your shifts are over. Change and hurry on home alright. And Mayu, do you think you could lock up the restaurant please? The manager of McDonald's in Akihabara, Japan, asked. You got it. Replied, said boy. Oh, Mayu, you're so trusted by the manager. You take your job seriously don't you? A hazel-haired girl asked her co-worker. Not really, but I'm glad that Kasaki-chan trusts me though. Replied the onyx-haired co-worker. Anyways, I've gotta hurry on home, I have some homework to do. Mayu nodded, alright, I'll see you tomorrow, then Chiho. The girl changed in a matter of minutes and soon left the restaurant, leaving the only person left. Mayu. Mayu decided to clean up a few tables and mop the floor before he closed up the restaurant. During his time mopping, a familiar ache in his hand started to appear. Again? Ugh, this hurt so much. He started to grab onto the nearby counter, trying to maintain his balance. This was what he calls an episode where his hand starts to hurt and started emitting a green glow. Unfamiliar with the current situation, he had finally decided that whenever that happens to him, he would just let it be and try not to let it get in the way, but this time, it felt worse. His arm started to burn up and his flesh started to turn red. Make it stop. He was taking deep breaths and he tried to walk over to the sink and see if he put cold water, it would stop the pain that was caused in his arm, but to no avail, it kept as it was and started to sting even more. Mayu started to take deeper breaths and started to clutch his arm. He closed his eyes, trying to ease away the pain until his episode was finally over. Few minutes later, his arm started to die down as his skin cooled down and his flesh was returning back to normal. Mayu was sweating really hard and when his episode had finished, he took a big gulp and decided that he should just lock up and head home, so that's what he did. It's been at least 2 weeks since his episode started. He was studying up on some history about devils and angels. A subject that was entitled Heavenly Dragons had appeared on the next page and his arm started to glow a bright fusion red and the backside of his palm emitted a green glow. Unknown to the current situation, he decided to let it go as the green glow started to fade away and his flesh returning back to its regular color. He didn't think much of it first, but he had grown quite scared to the situation as every time it happens, something new takes place. From hurting to his flesh burning, it was truly scary for Mayu to take on alone, but he didn't want to tell his best friend Alciel about it. Not just yet. Examining his arm, he could only think one thing, what's happening to me? Little did he know, someone was actually observing him from a nearby rooftop. Yes, we found the security, haven't we, Albion? The figure asked no one in particular, but his arm started to emit a light blue glow at the end of his sentence. He's quite clueless, but no doubt about it, he is the one we are destined to fight, Volley. Winter Ball? I asked, hearing about a formal dance Kuoh Academy is hosting the week before we head into break, onto second semester. Yep, Kuoh Academy is hosting a dance this upcoming Friday before break. This is also the time where devils and angels forget about their race and act like normal teenagers, such as the weight of getting asked out by a certain guy, Serafall explained while giving me a wink. I gulped. We were currently in the Orc Clubroom, discussing about this winter ball that was more or less a distraction. Since the underworld as well as heaven have reported that the old Mayu faction was making their first move on us. Even though a dance wasn't the best distraction in the world, it allows us to buy just a bit of time to set up a few magic traps and contain the school on a much more stronger barrier. Also, the thought of a dance wasn't half bad, so Riaz and Sona decided to make it a social event for the whole school. The only problem would be the student that would attend the ball. We guarantee their safety more or less. So, do you all have dates yet? Asked Serafall, quite cheerily, causing everyone in the room to blush, cause I know a certain someone that's dying for her crush to ask her out, she added, giving Sona a quick glance. This caused Sona to give off a new shade to red, one that's much more darker. Owani-sama. What are you telling them? Sona said shyly. You tell me, Sona-chan, Serafall replied while winking to Sona. They do have quite the relationship with each other. Aichu has a crush, Saji exclaimed in a defeated manner. He has a point though, does Sona have a crush? She's so perplexed and so concentrated on her work. Wouldn't you like to know, Saji-chan? Serafall teasingly replied, affecting both Saji and Sona. This caused Saji to fall down in defeat. A matter of seconds later, the bell rang and everyone started to walk to their respective classrooms. I was walking with Kiba and Saji, and as for Gabriel, even though she has class with us, she was walking with Irina, who also happened to have class with us. I left it alone because, well, they might be talking about the ball and whatnot. Some girly stuff. I do, Kiba, help me find Sona's crush, and with our powers combined we will. No, I cut him off. Seriously, Saji, how dense are you? Kiba just laughed. Well, what about you two? Do you even have dates yet? Mr. Bishounen over here though, wouldn't have a problem getting one. I don't know about Hayadu though. Saji said, a little irked off. You say that like it's easy. Kiba awkwardly smiled. And I do, by the way, Saji. With Kiba's looks, he could walk up to a girl, mention the word ball, wink, and in a matter of seconds, you're the only one without a date. I laughed. That's not fair, he exclaimed. We laughed and eventually quieted down when we reached our homeroom. It was late at night and I, Mayu Sadu, cannot get any sleep. Not because the mat was uncomfortable, but because of the recent event that just happened. I brought myself up and looked around our small room. Alciel was pretty much out cold, sleeping like a baby. Should I tell him? What would he say though? But knowing that Alciel has a lot of knowledge, he might help me out. After thinking about it for a few minutes, I decided to tell Alciel about it in the morning. Feeling tired, I closed my eyes and tried to go back to sleep. I opened up my eyes, unable to sleep, but I'm not in my room. I was inside a dark space, and before I could think about it, the floor started to burst flames, and my body was drifting towards it. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the room. You are currently possessing a power that is beyond your imagination. You are chosen by the gods to wield this sacred gear. This was the first time I had heard this voice. You are this generation's Sekiryuite. Come and hone your skills and fight for me, partner. I shot up from my mat and groaned. What did I just witness? The burst of unassurance was flowing throughout my body, but one thing was clear. I need to apply to Kuoh Academy. Issei. Ask me to the winter ball. No. Don't ask her, ask me. Issei, take my virginity. I love you. Were the things that was yelled at once I stepped in the room. I just awkwardly laughed and walked to my seat in the back. I do gets girls too, Saji exclaimed at the girls yelling for me. Well, he has his own fan club and all, Kiba pointed out. Once again, Saji was feeling defeated. It doesn't seem like he'll surpass his friends in both terms of power and girls. Suddenly, a group of third-year girls walked into the room and they're approaching Kiba. Kiba-kun, would you take me to the ball? Asked a blonde girl shyly. Being the nice guy Kiba is, he smiled and replied with a nod. After all, she was the first to have the guts to ask him, so he thought that was pretty interesting. Whoa, who was that Kiba? Saji asked. Abe, third-year student, captain of the tennis team. Also, believe it or not, she's a beast tamer, he mused. Oh? We have beast tamers in this school? I asked. Believe it or not, this school, more or less, have more like us, the mysterious-looking group of people that seem to frighten students. People like Butchu, Akeno-san, Kaneko, Sona Kaichu and Tsubaki Fukakeichu make up half the list. So basically, the supernatural. That's so, he replied. The teacher walked into the room and our lesson had started. Time skip. Something wrong, Ice-kun? Kiba asked as I was curiously wandering my eyes around. Classes had ended and the three of us were walking towards the orc clubhouse. I haven't said anything yet, but a strong presence is within our midst. A power that seems almost nostalgic. I replied. I've been having this feeling ever since class had started. A feeling of nostalgia and awareness has caused me to be really cautious. Before I could think more about the matter, we had arrived at the front doors of the clubhouse. Everybody from this morning was in the club room as well. Looking around the room, Ria seemed to be bothered by something. Something wrong? I asked. She turned around and looked at me confusingly, as if she was expecting something. I didn't want to say anything, but there's someone here. It's been bothering me ever since I came to the room, she replied. You too? Same with me. Catching the attention of everyone else, they all seemed to have noticed that strange powerful presence as well. It was like a footstep. It felt like it was getting closer and closer until it stopped. I was prepared for whatever was about to come towards us and it feels like everybody else was too. The door opened and a guy, not much older than we were, appeared. He had gray hair, pasty skin, and was wearing a cyan undershirt with a black coat. Something about this guy seemed too extraordinary. Catching the attention of everybody, he smirked and walked up. So this is the infamous Kuoh Academy, eh? Hosted by devils and contain angels. Seems interesting, the gray-haired teen pointed out. Who might you be? Sona asked, little bit ticked off. Oh, no one in particular, just someone from the hero faction. Hero faction? I asked in curiosity. He wasn't paying close attention to me, but when I spoke up, he suddenly took an interest in me. I sense great power in you. You're not like them. You seem strong but your powers are suppressed. He stated, anyways, that's all I needed to see. He turned around and started to walk away until boom. The wall in front of this mysterious man had suddenly exploded. I look over to my left and it was Akeno with her sadistic smile, sparking thunder from her palm. You barge in and just leave. That's quite rude, you know. She smiled, licking her fingers. The smile struck upon the mysterious man as he suddenly turned around, looking prepared to fight. Most interesting. He exclaimed. He readied himself and in a matter of seconds, a white scale plate armor appeared, surrounding his body and a white helmet took place on his head. Balance break. Balance break. Nonetheless, it's a white scale plate. Could it be? Everybody was getting ready for a fight, but instead, I stepped up. At back everyone. From what I can tell or remember, this shouldn't be a sacred gear you should all be messing with. I explained, getting ready myself. Ice. You just recovered, please don't do something stupid. Gabriel asked. I look over to her and gave her an assuring smile, don't worry, if I make it out alive, promise me one thing. Go to the winter ball with me. I winked before summoning my sword. I rushed over to the scale plate armor with Godspeed, but we were even in terms of speed, as he dodged my strike and flew out the roof. I made my wings appear, and soon enough, we were playing a game of chase in the sky. He tried to hit me down with a few projectiles, but I parried them with my katana. I created a light spear with my palm and aimed for his back. Tucking it across the sky, I managed to hit him in the back, causing him to fall down. I landed on the ground and wasting no time, I rushed him with Godspeed and struck him across the chest, but something I forgot struck me. Divide. Dividing, the user drains the opponent's attack and gives it to himself when touched. This power. It's great. He yelled out. He rushed towards me, full speed, and started on close combat. Dodging a few punches, some managed to caught me off guard. Dividing is also not helping my current situation, but this was nothing. I smirked and let out my palm, causing another sword to appear. I had managed to get this sword back during the fight with Gabriel, and this was probably the second time I'm using it ever since my power loss. A long, sleek golden sword with a diamond blue middle frame appeared in my hand. His sword was none other than the original Excalibur. I dual-wielded my swords as I came, rushing in, slicing and striking relentlessly, until. His armor crashed. The blue gem that was in the middle of his armor popped out, cracked, and fell to the floor. He was coughing out blood, but he was smirking, as if he wasn't done yet. Only if the Sekiryuite would be as strong as you, I'll have such a fun time. That's it. It's confirmed. The sacred gear that was standing before me was none other than the Hakuryuku. But something was still off about this guy. Mainly because, he's partially human and he could wield a sacred gear. Before I could finish my thoughts, his armor reappeared and he was back for a round 2. He flew in the air and made 2 large balls of energy with his palms and he smacked the energy balls, causing it to destroy the surrounding. I couldn't help but notice the excess energy that was being released through his wings. He's trying to contain maximum power by removing the energy through his wings. I created another light spear and aimed for his wings. The speed was too fast and it caused his wings to explode. It didn't get rid of his ability of flight though, as he still had his booster pack in his back. He flew towards me and released an energy projectile which I managed to dodge with ease. Seeing an opening, I closed the gap between us and used a sub-ability on Excalibur, Starburst Stream. With a barrage of strikes, his armor once again blew away. Coughing out more blood, he refused to give up. Give it up, you can't win. I declared. Most interesting. I guess he deserves to see Juggernaut drive. Juggernaut drive? Is he insane? Does he know what an incomplete Juggernaut drive will do? It's practically suicide. Boy volley, it's not wise to do that here, his partner replied as he began to chant. I, who is about to awaken. Am the heavenly dragon who has taken the principles of supremacy from God. I envy the infinite and I pursue the dream. He's halfway through the chant. I gotta do something. He started to glow and I started to rush in, but before I could, another figure appeared, causing volley to stop. He looked over to the other figure that appeared. Biku, what are you doing here? We need you back at HQO. He looked over me and looked really surprised. Volley, were you trying to fight this guy? He asked. Yeah, why? No wonder why you lost, he mused. Anyways, we gotta hurry, nice meeting you. And with that, they were gone. Everybody from Orc suddenly appeared, along with everybody else. Ice, are you okay? Gabriel asked with concern. Yeah, I'm fine, like I told you I would, I chuckled. Guess I have to go with you to the ball, Yeah, but not unless you don't want to, I joked. The feeling of lips came up against mine. You're not getting rid of me that easily, she winked. Ice, who was that? Riaz asked, you seemed like you beepized him well. Bali, as his friend stated. The current user of the Hakuryuku, also known as the Sacred Gear, Divine Dividing. As far as I can tell, there's 2 factions trying to take out the government of the underworld and ruin the treaty between the factions. I explained. Sona and Riaz exchanged looks. How do you know so much about that? They asked. Crap. I read a lot about it, I awkwardly chuckled, trying to avoid the matter. Well, that's that. Let's go back to school, we have a lot to set up. So this is it, Kuoh Academy. The black-haired teen mused as he stood outside the entrance to Kuoh Academy. Why did I have the urge to go here? Guess we'll find out. End of the part 2. So how was this story? I hope you like it. And if you like it, share this story with your friends and like the video too. And don't forget to subscribe our channel for daily awesome fanfiction. Okay, it's time for me to go. Bye bye.